like to speak? Okay. Could you come to our platform and also give us your name for the record?
Hi, as the board knows, I'm Jan Zabriskie. I'm here this evening to talk about briefly the Climate Transformation Alliance, and I know you've heard about it before, and also Ted Owens will be meeting with Sierra Business Council representatives on Monday to discuss it. So I'm just here to possibly repeat what you've heard before, but also encourage the hospital to become involved in that Climate Transformation Alliance. As you know, the goal is essentially to achieve carbon neutrality in this region by 2045. The members already include Town of Truckee, the Airport District, and the Public Utility District. The program is spearheaded by the Sierra Business Council, and that's why Ted will be meeting with Meredith Anderson on Monday. The basic requirements are pretty simple. It's having one staff member and one board member attending the meetings, which are held every 3 months. So it's 4 meetings a year for 2 hours. It's about how long the meetings last. Why should the hospital participate? First of all, it's an opportunity to brainstorm and learn from experts in the other local districts on how to reduce emissions and satisfy greenhouse gas requirements. Also, it's about learning the most cost-effective ways to do so and, in fact, achieve reductions in costs for energy. Also, by participating, you can help shape local policies in a way that you can support. Rather being on the outside, you can be on the inside to make things happen. Also, you'd be demonstrating to the public that the hospital is concerned, is making a commitment to achieve target reductions. Hospitals like the UC system, UC Davis, and the other healthcare institutions of the UC system, which comprise 6 academic health centers and 20 health professional schools, are participating with other hospitals to try and reduce greenhouse gases. It would be great for us to say this hospital is on board with those efforts. And the next event, there's actually a community event on November 2nd from 6 to 8 at the Community Arts Centers. The first event where essentially CTA is inviting the general public. If any of you can attend, including anyone in the audience, that would be great. The next regular meeting of CTA is on January 12th at the Airport District Boardroom. So I'm hoping you give it some attention, consider how the hospital can benefit from this, both in terms of reducing costs of operation, in terms of public perception, in terms of improving health care in our community, reducing the risk of asthma due to global warming, and those things of which you're already aware. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Jan. And I do want you to know that the hospital is concerned about green gas emissions, and that we have internally been doing lots of activities trying to look at how we can reduce, reuse, recycle, doing all the things that will make us good stewards of our environment. And Ted will be attending the meeting and bringing back further information to us. So thank you again.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because most members of our public don't realize how much the hospital's already doing. CTA is a good way to get that word out.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else speaking?
My name is Jana Blomquist, and I have prepared something which I'll go through, although what was just transpired between you and the last speaker is fantastic, and I want to underscore that. But I do have something I prepared. So I've been thinking a lot lately about the legacy each generation leaves to the ones that follow. And back when I was a kid, global warming was virtually unknown to the general public. My childhood was unmarred by the chaos and uncertainty that today's children are all too aware of. But my generation, although unaware of it at the time, was being left a legacy of pollution and fossil fuel dependence, a legacy that is being borne out in the increasingly extreme droughts, floods, hurricanes, wildfires, disappearing biodiversity, etc., that we are all seeing today. A lot of people are worried about this. A lot of local people are worried about this. According to the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication, 74% of Nevada County residents and 73% of Placer County residents are worried about climate change. Nearly that amount think that corporations and citizens should do more about it. And that's where many local institutions have been making strides, as the last speaker mentioned, to reduce their carbon footprints and to operate more sustainably. And that's exciting and raises a possibility that the legacy that we leave our children will not be as bad as it could have been if we weren't taking these steps. The Tahoe Forest Hospital District is perceived as being conspicuously absent from those efforts. And the fact that there is work being done is, something that we would all like to know more about. And your joining the Climate Transformation Alliance would be a tremendous step in that direction, and raising awareness so that local people who are worried about climate change have a chance to support the hospital and be encouraged would be an amazing step forward. So that the hospital is not seen as falling out of step with the needs and wishes of the community it serves. So please consider joining the others and demonstrating and amplifying your efforts to ensure that we leave the best possible legacy for our precious future generations. Speaking of which, my daughter is here and wanted to say something as well. Thank you.
Okay. Bring it down, yeah.
Hi, I'm Kaylin. You should really pay attention to climate change. Icebergs in the poles, as we speak, may be melting, making survival hard for many animals. But it doesn't stop there. All around the world, it's like the Earth is having mood swings. From freezing below 0-degree winters and blazing hot never-before summers, California has experienced it like most. But you may be thinking, what can one little person like me do if no one else does anything? Well, if we all say, hey, you know what? I may be little, but at least I can try. Then we all try to help our Mother Earth. That's like 1 billion little people doing something. If we all collaborate together, then that goes from no one doing anything to everyone doing something. If no one works together to solve this problem, think about us kids. What would our future be like? We are the future, but what if there wasn't a future? Thank you for listening to my opinion, and I hope you think a lot of time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Again, I want to let everybody know that the hospital has been engaged in being a good steward of our land and our earth, and that if we need to bring it out more publicly, I will work with Ted and the Alliance to do so. But thank you again.
And if you haven't read Horton Hears a Who, I would encourage you to.
Yeah.
Because it talks about the power of a little voice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any input from our Employees Association? Okay, I don't see anybody from the association, so we'll move on to our Medical Staff Executive Committee meeting agenda.
So there are 4 consent agenda items today. The first is an addition to the surgical consent agenda to allow for repair of the bladder should it be accidentally injured during a surgery, and should there not be a urologist available to do that repair. And so we want our general surgeons and our obstetrician gynecologists to be able to do that. This is actually just general surgery, sorry, to be able to do that repair as needed. It's something that's in their scope of practice, but it was not on their privilege cards. So that's the first consent agenda item that's a change. The second is that we are following the federal guidelines and reducing the requirements for tuberculosis testing from every 2 years to every 3 years, or for every 1 year to every 3 years, so that we have a little less intensive need for quantiferon gold tests. The third and fourth are two related policies from the OB-PEDS department, and they are requesting that we add rectal temperatures and pulse oximetry testing as part of the routine birth admission orders and late preterm admission orders in order to better screen for sepsis in high-risk or average-risk babies. And so those are the changes. Alice did point out that the risk statement for the first of those two policies is not a proper risk statement, and it does need to be reworded. And so I would like to request that that the policy be approved with the caveat that the risk statement needs to be corrected, and that I can bring that risk statement back next time, but that the policy be approved now so that we can institute this change.
And Dr. Koch, it's also on the immunity one, there is not a risk statement. Again, I brought this up before about whether we need to have them on all policies or how, and it sounds like with the high reliability and what Program Beta wants is they want a risk statement. If this is not followed, what are the consequences?
Right.
And so the one on the TB is, has needs one, and also both of the neonatals. So I'd be willing to go ahead and approve them, if that's the consensus of the board, to approve them with the condition that a risk statement is added to it.
And that we'll provide you with a copy of that risk
Okay.
statement at the next board meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the policies or the surgical privilege card? Nothing from our board? Anything from the audience? Then can I have a motion to approve the medical executive committee meeting consent agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with a caveat that the risk statement will be added to the three policies. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So you have those to go back and do. Thank you so much, Dr. Koch. Moving on to our consent calendar, item 13. Any of these items are usually reports or documents that are non-controversial. We do have a policy that is on there as well that'll need a risk statement, but is there anybody that wants to pull any of these items? Nobody from the board? Anybody from our staff that might want an item pulled? Okay, don't see anybody jumping on that one, so could I have a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented with a caveat that the risk statement for the policy ABD 9 be added?
I'll move the consent calendar be approved as indicated.
A second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Director Barnett, seconded by Director Shamlin, to approve the consent calendar with the addition of a risk statement for the policy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so the consent calendar passes. We'll move on to item 14, which are items for board discussion. And our first one is our surgical service and Optum report. We have our CNO, Jan Aida, and also our acute care service director of nursing, Trent Faust, to present. So if you come up to the microphone.
The little remote control area.
Oh, you got the clicker. Hi,
Good evening. I'm not sure that most of the board has met Trent Faust. He's our Director of Nursing, which he is over all of our inpatient units, our emergency department, and surgical services. So,
Welcome.
so we'll go ahead and start. The Optum report that you have asked to hear a report about. This was a project that started, it was a 9-month project that started last fall. Let me see if I can get this to go forward. Oh, it's not going forward. Oh.
It's on.
There it goes. Okay, I'll let you drive it since you're gonna. So when we went ahead, we go to the next slide. When we went ahead and started this project with Optum, Optum is a consultant company that came and performed this over a 9-month evaluation of the Tahoe Forest Surgical Services. And what they were looking at were efficiencies and opportunity for growth. And this was asked by many people, not just in the department, but our surgeons and anesthesiologists too. So what Optum did is they took an in-depth look at our current practices and then let us know what they felt that we could improve on. Next slide. So the changes that were made from this Optum report, we began with our perioperative governance committee was established. That is a group that consists of surgeons, anesthesiologists, and administrative staff, and also surgical staff. So that committee started because of this Optum report. The second one was we began with a perioperative clinic was established, and that's with the perioperative pre-op nurses that work in the surgical department, but also our pre-op clinic. And so together, trying to really streamline this process so that we're talking to the patient in one voice instead of calling the patient 4 and 5 different times to get information. On-time case start was another issue that was brought up to us. Scorecards, which Trent will go into, resource management, and then accountability. So I'll let Trent take over from here and let you know some of the work that's continuing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak a little bit. So our perioperative governance committee really is looking at the efficiencies within the operating room. How is the time being utilized? How are our surgeons being utilized? And what metrics are we really trying to establish with an operating room? And are we using it to its capacity? Unfortunately, there's decisions that have to be made, and having a sole decision maker is never a good idea. So we established a team to help sort of get the different perspectives and what decisions are going to make the most sense, not only for the patient perspective, but from an efficiency standpoint. So during those monthly meetings, we've evolved that of policy, practices, sort of concerns that have come up, and have an open forum and have really engaged our surgeons, those surgical members of surgeons, to really evaluate their practice and what it means, and having a say at the table as a surgeon empowers them to be actively participating within the operating room. So we meet for about an hour every month and really go over what those concerns are, and then establish, and as it's evolved, block line, how are we using our blocks? How are we using the operating room to its maximum capacity? So this committee goes over what that means. What do we give and criteria for granting block line, for holding surgeons accountable to that line is something, and then any warning letters, disciplinary action, concerns that are coming up really goes in front of peers of surgeons, administrators, hospital staff to make the best decision for that operating room. I will say over the last probably 4 to 5 months, we've had a lot of engagement with our surgeons and input, which is very valuable in keeping that operating room functioning and progressing in a positive direction. So that's our perioperative governance. Here's our members, as you can see. We do like, obviously, our administrators and our surgeons. The medical directors have been very supportive in making these processes theirs and holding each other accountable to them. So With that, again, the big things that we're working on right now, we established sort of these policies of what block means of OR utilization. We're transitioning to e-consents to really give our patients informed consent, both by the surgeon and by the anesthesiologist. So that process is working concurrently right now to get both the surgeons and the anesthesiologist on the same page with all of the regulatory measures with the verbiage that they want. And so that runs through the perioperative governance as well. Block utilization, I'll show you a scorecard in just a second of what we have started implementing, of giving our surgeons feedback of what they're actually performing. Anecdotally, everyone's at 1,000%, but when you actually pull the data and give it to them, it says a little bit different story. So giving them that real life data of what the expectation is and how they are performing. And then in Incline Village, we've implemented a 3-case minimum, and that's to maximize the resources that we're sending over to the Incline Village Community Hospital so that we're still able to perform those procedures for our patients in Incline, but not excessively use our resources. So maximizing the efficiency over at Incline as well. And then, again, incorporating the surgeons and the anesthesiologists to participate in what we see as a mutual OR.
Could I ask you a question on that?
Absolutely.
For your 3-case minimum at Incline, so how often then are surgeries being done there? Is it daily or is it 3
Great
times?
question. So we have blocks there the second, third, and fifth Thursday of every month. So 2 to 3 times a month is when we're going over there, primarily for ophthalmology. But we do have Dr. Jernick, one of our orthopedists, that will do procedures over there. So they're able to block or bunch those procedures together to maximize that time.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I was going to say, endo.
So GI incline, we haven't ran into the issue.
So back in June, with Incline Village, we received approval to start our endoscopy services, colonoscopies, EGDs for our patients over in Incline. So Dr. Nasciando is performing GI procedures 2 times a month over at Incline Village to help service that community and reduce that travel time as well. And it's been very successful. We perform in the main OR and sort of switch it over from an operating room to a GI lab with ample time. That's been Dylan and Louie did a great job, and Jan, with making sure we met all the regulatory compliance to have that performed. So increasing GI services, and just future-wise, as our GI service line is increasing, we may be utilizing Incline a little bit more for that. Thanks, Louie. So our preoperative clinic, what we found during the Optum was there's a lot of redundancy that was being performed by multiple offices, staff members, and patients were getting 3, 4, 5 phone calls about the same thing. So this pre-op clinic is really looking at a patient optimization to not only get them through surgery, but make them successfully recover post-operatively. And this pre-op clinic and optimization that we're doing is reducing redundancy, prepping them for surgery, to have the surgery for the best possible outcome. So we have our pre-op clinic, and we have our what's called pre-op nurses. So we've created a channel in order to funnel all of the patients into one location and then divvy them out with shared work. So we're not giving those patients multiple phone calls, giving them the same instructions. We're working for that system-wide initiative to not only, right now we're focusing on our orthopedics being our biggest department in surgical service line. Once we hone that down and make sure everything is rolled out smoothly, after the bugs are worked out, then we'll roll it out to all surgical services, urology, GI, and all the other specialties. So that pre-op clinic is really looking at making sure our patients have not only successful surgeries, but successful return after surgery to whatever activity they enjoy doing. I think I already said that. Sorry. So on-time case start. what we found is we're trying to maximize our operating room, and we found that there were very sporadic start times, lackadaisical start times, and as we're trying to increase service lines, we need OR space. And in order to do that, we have to set some sort of metric to look at how we can maximize the surgeon's time and fit more patients within the OR. The on-time first case is really looking at the downstream effect. So if our surgery is supposed to start at 7:30, when did we get in that operating room? Were we in there at 7:30, before 7:30, or how far after 7:30 did we get to that? And the trickle effect of delayed cases as the day goes on. So that was Optum's. What we decided is we want to look more globally at what's causing those delays. Typically, a surgeon will have either a half-day block or a full-day block, so really they're only bumping themselves. As we look at efficiency and increasing the same line with multiple surgeons, that's where we want to look at. So we're looking at our pre-op process as the patient comes to registration and gets all their pre-op their preparation for surgery done in the operating room and the post-operative care, and really looking at what are those delays that we can take away to make that day move, not only that first case, but throughout the entire day. How can we make that efficient? So we're looking at all cases, not just the first case being the trickle-down effect, but all cases for all areas of where those delays can happen and how to mitigate those. The other thing we looked at, Optum suggested we do a data review. There was a lot of manual data that was being pulled and a lot of excess work by our Optum partners. And when we came in and looked at it a little more, we're like, well, how can we do this more efficiently where it's not so labor intensive? So we figured out how to utilize our EMR a little bit more efficiently. And so we can track monthly data. We get physicians' quarterly report cards we discuss at our perioperative governance committee on a monthly basis to look at trends, their utilization, their volumes, and what types of delays they're using. So here's an example of a physician scorecard of when their block is, what their number of case count is, when they worked in block, when they worked out of block, and what their total block minutes were and minutes used. So our goal for block utilization is 70%. That allows for a lot of, it's a sort of a national benchmark between 70 to 75%. We chose 70% as we wanted to build up as we start this program. But as you can see, we give them sort of a snapshot in time of how they're doing within their blocks. Are they giving away their block? Are they starting late? Are they getting out early? And what types of delays are there? Is it where we're looking at that efficiency from our ambulatory surgery department, the actual operating room, the patients, and our anesthesiologists and surgeons? So give them that snapshot in time. So we give this on a quarterly basis so they can see how they're doing. Any questions on scorecards?
Yeah. So if I'm looking at these these scorecards, and you were saying you want at least 75%?
70% is the benchmark.
And so really, they've done well with that.
They've done amazing.
So I guess they're doing okay overall.
So this is just one surgeon.
Okay.
So we
Yeah,
give
pick
them, so we have about,
Yeah, this is,
well, I chose the one that I wanted to highlight.
yeah.
No, but it gives us good data of how they're doing on a monthly basis. And what we look at is the quarter, not the month, but how they did in that quarter. Really to show, yes, you're going to have slow months, you're going to have busy months. How does that look over a quarter, over a year, over extended amounts of time? And that's really what this data we use to grant more block time, to say, hey, you may not be using all your time, but we have these other surgeons that would love time. Would you consider reducing time? So it really gives us that data to make those types of decisions in our perioperative governance committee.
Is this a newly implemented process?
So we implemented it actually in August of this year. I took data back from Q4 fiscal year 23 and then just sent out Q1 fiscal year 24 to the surgeons.
So wait, you said it started in August?
but he backed up
No,
data.
I gave it to him in August. I apologize. I gave it to him in August for the previous quarter.
Okay, so I was like, wait,
Yep,
April.
sorry.
Okay, and so prior to this process, what was being used? to
Nothing.
measure
Nothing.
emissions? Nothing at all?
Anecdotal stuff.
Okay, okay.
I'm 1,000%, man.
Yeah,
We're good.
we all are.
Exactly. We're going good.
So the problems that you describe here and the solutions you've come up with
Microphone.
would seem to be universal to all hospitals. Is there a standard in the industry, and is this it?
Yeah, so what we looked at with, so national standards is, yes, looking at utilization of our surgeons and how we're using those ORs. The national standard is, depending on what report you read, is 70% or 75%. That leaves wiggle room for add-on cases at the end of the day for emergencies, patients who need something urgent from an outpatient thing. But 70% is typically what we're looking at, and we can really measure those. Now we have actual data to give them.
Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, and Optum was a great resource in using, like, sort of standardize everything. And what we found is we had to take sort of their standard of what they want and mold that to fit to Tahoe Forest, knowing that we're not a 1,000-bed hospital that has 28 ORs. We simmered it down to say what's going to be the most meaningful for Tahoe Forest to maximize what we need in our community. Yep, sorry.
Information question. How many OR bays do we have that can operate simultaneously?
So we have 3 operating rooms, with the 4th operating room being our GI lab, or our endoscopy room. At Incline, we have 1 operating room. So simultaneously, in any given day, we're trying to maximize the number of anesthesiologists we have to the number of operating rooms. That's sort of the crux, is how many anesthesiologists we have. So if we have 4 in a day, the hope is that we're running 4 rooms in that day. Servicing Incline Village, we also service Truckee Surgery Center as well. So we split those resources appropriately.
So assignment of the anesthesiologist looks like a key to making this work.
Absolutely, and that's what we cater when we get block schedules. We look at our anesthesiology availability and what number of staff we have per day on that, and that's how we grant our anesthesia lines or our block times based off of our anesthesiologists.
Just one more question. How are the anesthesiologists scheduled? Do they work like 3 24-hour days, or how does that work?
They work day shifts and they share 1 person on call per night. So, but we have anywhere from 4, starting in November, we'll have 5 anesthesiologists on any given day.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is the more important number, the blocks or the minutes?
So the minutes is how we calculate the utilization. The important number that we're looking at on this is the block utilization percentage. Yep, so if they request a block, if they request a block, we put that into minutes because their operating time is based off of OR minutes. So that's how we calculate the percentage.
How do you figure in emergency services? There's a Highway 80 crash at 2 in the morning, and somebody arrives in the ER and needs immediate surgery.
Great question. The immediate surgery goes, and someone gets to wait. So we take those emergencies as life or limb, or urgency for, whatever may be happening. And they have a conversation between the surgeons, and the more urgent procedure goes first.
They do.
So they will bump for any type of critical emergency.
Yeah.
Which does not count against them if we're telling them it comes, so.
Right, but it obviously throws you off schedule then.
Throws us off schedule, but that emergency is what we're there to take care of.
Right, and you accept those anomalies, it's just
It's part of
the reality, yeah.
Exactly. It's part of an emergency department that performs surgery, is we're going to take care of those things that come in. And we have contingency plans of what if something happens, but we continue business as normal until that happens.
Yeah.
So target is 70%. What's unrealistic on the high end? I mean, is 100% impossible?
No, so
Or
we-
is the way you schedule blocks, you could actually reach 100%?
Absolutely. So we have two surgeons that are 112% and 130%.
Okay.
And what that tells us is that they need more OR time. And that gives us the data to say how much time. So the in-block, out-of-block piece really tells us if you're really operating out of block a lot and you have in-block time utilization of greater than 80%, you probably should get more OR time. But that helps us drive those decisions.
And does this speak with the number of cases? Does it speak to the efficiency of the actual procedures themselves, right? Like,
There's a different metric that we look at for that. If surgeons request OR time, hey, I'm going to do a total hip, and it's going to take me this long.
Yeah.
We have a measure that averages what their actual case length time is through our EMR, and they'll come in and give that. And then we can say, well, your case you said was going to be 90 minutes, you actually took 84 minutes, or you took 130 minutes. And there's always variability with patient anatomy and
Sure.
just all that stuff, but generally they're pretty accurate on their case lengths. All right, I'm almost done. Resource management. So really what we're looking at in this and how we're trying to maximize just the supply cost, as we know, is astronomical. And so where can we work as good stewards of our resources of not producing waste? So really we have what's called preference cards for each surgery that the surgeon uses the same supplies. And so we're really trying to maximize those supplies without having to open something else or go get something else. Obviously, if a patient needs it, we're going to get it, but not taking away the waste and using what we have on there. In addition to that, maximizing our charge capture. So what we're doing to the patient, are we accurately reflecting that not only in the medical record, but in the bill that goes out as well? So utilizing our revenue cycle to make sure that we're capturing what we should be capturing in our billing and coding in that manner. And then staffing management, our goal as administrators is we want to see the OR running 100% all the time. Unfortunately, we allow doctors to go on vacation, which is a good thing. So we staff according to what cases we have. So we're not bringing in a full 3-crew OR staff when we only have one going on. We'll bring in that one crew, have one on call. So really utilizing our our personnel in an efficient manner, not excessively bringing people in all the time. And finally, accountability. So with accountability, not only holding our staff to accountability, but our surgeons, our anesthesiologists, and then really looking at how, as we're reducing our inefficiencies, we're increasing our service capabilities. So in June of this year, we started our cardiac service line, where we're doing right-sided procedures, pacemakers, right heart caths, to really keep our patients within our community, but provide a service to do so. So we have a great cardiologist that comes up and helps us, and thus far we've had excellent outcomes and excellent care of our patients, and a very satisfied cardiologist knowing this is the first time of doing it, that, hey, our patients are very well taken care of, which is super exciting. Our endoscopy service, like I said, at Incline Village, we only see that growing more, and having an additional GI doctor come in and having Incline utilized a little bit more in that operating room, because 3 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, depending on the week, we're not doing much on there. So, and then with Dr. Weinstein coming back, increasing our urology service line back to providing that urology care that our patients need. And then exploring other opportunities with increasing our service. At this moment in time with our block utilization, we're about 75% utilization or blocks granted, which allows a lot of surgeons to plan their cases out, but at the same time allow for add-ons and anything of the urgent matter to come on. And our goal is simply have our OR constantly running during business hours to fit the needs of our community. Additional questions?
I have one. What has been the response of the surgeons and the OR staff, the anesthesiologists, to this particular change?
Yeah, change is always hard, and there's, mantras of, I've been here for 30 years and this has never happened.
Yeah.
However, a cultural shift is taking place of we're here to service our community, and in order to do so, we have to be a little more efficient. And the response probably is like a steam engine where it takes a while to start, but once it gets rolling, it's cooking. And right now, our buy-in has been very good. There's a lot of questions, and the openness from our administrative team and our OR staff to our surgeons is what's keeping that going. I have surgeons coming up and saying, hey, thanks for the block card. Was that delay mine or was it someone else? Can you help me? So I have their input on, really, they're being measured, and they're now, hey, I'm working on it. I had a slow week. Like, don't hurt me. So it's a good discussion that we're having with our providers, to the point that we're even giving our anesthesiologist scorecards to say, hey, this is what you did during the day, and here's what the expectation was of the full day. So holding everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask a question. Who chairs or who leads out in this perioperative committee? Is it physician that chairs it, or just for our boards and community benefit?
Yeah, great question. So Dr. Evans and Dr. Andy Ringnes are our co-chairs of this perioperative governance committee. They've graciously allowed me to sort of put the agenda together and help run it, but those two are our chairpersons.
Thanks.
Any other questions about
I
Optum?
had well, just a quick, and maybe we don't address this here, but if we have reviewed in the past, I apologize, but what were the key findings of the Optum report? We see here in these slides what was were there a couple of key findings?
Well, those were yes, that was the key findings. The areas that they really felt that we needed to work on is that we didn't have a perioperative committee. So our physicians really had not a place where they could come and discuss issues that they were seeing in the OR, inefficiencies in the OR. So by bringing the group together and really working as a team, that was the first thing Optum saw. The next thing they saw was our perioperative, our pre-op clinic, and that how many times we were touching the patient. So all the things that they came up with are the things that we took back to the starting with the perioperative, then developing the pre-op clinic, and then the scorecards. They said, you mean your surgeons don't really have a scorecard or know their block utilization? Mm-hmm. And so they really came up with stuff that everybody else had already been doing, and surgeons who came from other areas and anesthesiologists had already seen this. And so for us to be able to take this and get this going and really be able to see some of the improvements, and how I agree with Trent. I think people are happier now because they feel like they have a place at the table and they're able to say what's on their mind. In the perioperative group, it doesn't mean that everybody in that group is always going to, they'll say things that they have to say and everybody may not be in agreement, but how do we get to that agreement? Yeah. So.
I'd be amazed if they were, yeah.
Yeah.
Did Optum provide a written report, though? Is that something we could?
There are two reports that they did provide, written reports.
Yeah.
Okay.
One was completely report ortho, and the other being surgery.
Okay. If that's something that could be shared, I'd love to
See it.
see it. Yeah.
Yep.
Because no, these are tremendous work. So in
Yeah.
putting this all together, but it's also a little shocking that it's not. I'm equally as Optum might have been. I'm like, you don't have scorecards. And it seems like this is something that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
When we talk about budgets and inefficiencies and redundant workflows, and I'm thinking about the impact on budget. Not only to mention satisfaction of the employees, because they're frustrated with that work too. So no, but this is great to see.
Yeah, like Trent said, it was a hard change for them,
Yeah.
meaning they all weren't very open about that change, but now to see how they're, really
Well, there's
moving
data to back
forward.
it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But even the staff, because I think that was kind of the group that was a little
I find
harder
it
to bring
interesting,
around.
too, that you call it a team. In my own mind, I think of an NFL football team where you're constantly evaluating the quarterback and the ends and the linemen, and all that coordination has to occur to have a winning team.
We haven't quite implemented broadcasters for every step, but we'll get there.
2024.
Let me ask a question about the idea of burnout, because that's something that we've heard and been concerned about. Does this type of, I'm going to call it collegiality, work to help relieve some people's frustrations and give them a forum where they think they are empowered and it's not just a top-down operation where they're being told what to do?
Yeah, the communication piece is huge, down to our EVS staff that's working within the OR and taking their input into consideration, along with the staff all the way up to our surgeons and anesthesiologists, and having that feeling of a stake in the game and not being directed, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, but really taking a step back and being what we took over the last 4 months is a very curious mindset. What's working well? How come this is going this way? Help me understand this process. What do you see as a room for improvement? And getting that surgeon, anesthesiologist, staff member input has helped us make a lot of these changes, and that buy-in to where they're not dreading, like, hey, the boss is telling me to do this. It's, hey, our team has decided this is going to be beneficial for us.
I think it was
Good to hear.
Yep. And I think it was great to have this report and know that, we've got really specific metrics that you're looking at. I think that's the most important key to the whole process, because then the physicians can see it's not just my feeling, but it's these numbers, and it's your numbers, so you have control over whether you're going to go by them or get better. So again, thank you for that report, and congratulations, you guys, on a job well done down there. And hopefully, we'll continue to see better and better communication and our block percentages being used.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any comments from our?
I just have one. I think what I would propose is taking Director Barnett's question back to the perioperative governance committee, and we'll just ask them what it's doing to burnout.
The microphone.
Yeah,
Great.
We also have a microphone over here that you guys can pass
I'll do
around.
that for my next comment.
Okay. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in our next item, 14.2, is about seismic compliance plan, and that would be you.
Thank you. Good evening. Dylan Crosby, Director of Facilities and Construction and Safety Officer for the health system. So this update and notification to the board is very much in addition to Louis' presentation last month, and our seismic regulations and the deadlines that we have to meet compliance. So to back up a little bit, we have a current compliance deadline of 2030 to reach new seismic compliance standards with some of our buildings. So I think it's also important to communicate we are compliant right now to provide acute care services in our buildings up until 2030, and we have a compliance plan to reach that. The intent of this presentation is really to dive into Assembly Bill 1882 and the requirements therein. So Assembly Bill 1882 is predicated and seeks to raise awareness of general acute care hospitals' compliance with the seismic safety regulations and standards outlined in Senate Bill 1953. There's 3 requirements of Assembly Bill 1882. The first requirement is to submit to the HCI a service utilization per building along with a seismic evaluation. That effort has been completed and has been approved by HCI. The second effort required by this bill is to put a signage plan together in the hospital. So that plan has been created and submitted to the department and is pending approval. So as Louis shared in last month's meeting, there is a standard template to show the compliance rating of each building. within our, the hospital's made up of relatively 15 to 18 different structures and buildings in the eyes of HCI. So we will, before the end of the year, after HCI's approval, be putting and posting those signs in public areas of each individual building showing those ratings. The third and final requirement of Assembly Bill 1882 is to provide a notice to key members of the public as well as representation authorities to show relatively the same thing, the compliance, the existing compliance of each building within the hospital. And in addition to that, also the services within each building, and that is the document that's included in the packet. So this document, in addition to coming before the Board of Directors, will also be submitted to multiple entities to include but not limited to our County Board of Supervisors, our Town Council, any labor unions representing workers who work in our buildings, the department being HCI, any local offices of emergency services or equivalents, the State Office of Emergency Services, and the Medical Health Operational Area Coordinator. In addition to that, in the packet, I've also included a seismic compliance plan. We do intend to release this document to some of our partners to explain the process that the hospital is intending to go through to reach compliance on 2030. In this compliance plan, we outline our requirements, which is reaching the evaluation as well as the 1882 requirements before January 1st of 2024. We are required to submit to HCI plans for construction to reach compliance by January 1st of 2026. We're required to pull building permits by January 1st of 2028 and reach full compliance and acceptance by January 1st of 2030. And we intend to reach this compliance in 3 different key phases. So currently we have 5 structures that are not compliant with the 2030 requirements. HCI uses 2 different categories to gauge our compliance. There's a non-structural performance rating, and then there's a structural performance rating. We typically call it NPC and SPC. So we have 1 structure, which includes our first 2 buildings, our 1952 and 1966 buildings. They are not compliant currently. There are some various options, but the more economical option is likely to demolish said structure and replace it potentially in the future. That's considered our phase 3 scope, or excuse me, phase 2B. And excuse me, let me go in order first. So we have 4 in-hospital buildings, and important to kind of outline the service departments in those buildings. So these buildings include a portion of diagnostic imaging, a portion of the emergency department, our inpatient pharmacy, a portion of surgery, a portion of our sterile processing department, and portions of our dietary department. So these structures need NPC work to get to an NPC 2 to 4 rating. This phase 1 has already been engaged with for a couple of years. We're actually ahead of the curve quite a bit on this one. We actually have permits already approved and are ready to pull permits and start construction on that phase 1 work, and we have that scheduled to start in fiscal year 25. Our phase 2A scope of work is expanding the capacity of our facility. The intent of the law is that the hospital building is one of the last buildings standing and operating in the event of a major earthquake. And what that requires to do, or where our shortfall is in that 2030 compliance, is with 72 hours of on-site water storage, which is both mechanical and domestic water, as well as 72 hours of liquid waste. So for rough parameters, our current expectation for our water storage on campus is about 75,000 gallons, and our sewer storage at 55,000 gallons. This phase 2A scope of work, in order to meet the current required timeline of January 1st, 2026, is intended to go out to bid late in calendar year '24, so this upcoming year. And then I already touched on Phase 2B, which will be taking care of our 1952 and 1966 structures. And the intent of that project as well is to release that per bid in late calendar year 2024. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I've been around since Measure C was passed, and we came into seismic compliance, at least as far as those rules and regulations were in effect at the time. What are the chances they're going to move the goalposts again here when we comply with this additional work? I mean, there's really no way to guess, is there?
I don't know that there's a way to guess, but I will say the compliance deadline has shifted substantially over the last year since that time. And it's also important to mention the hospital has put an incredible amount of effort and capital towards getting to where we are today. So we've obviously achieved substantial seismic retrofit projects as part of Measure C and prior to ensure that we're able to operate. And we have just that farther to go. I know there's a lot of push in the state as this is a significant capital investment for not only us, but many hospitals throughout the state of California to reach this compliance. I know there's a lot of pressure to push said deadlines. As far as moving the goalposts and changing the law, I'd rely on some other resources to assist with that.
Ted is smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, last week I actually spent Monday at the California Hospital Association board meeting, and this was the number one priority for us in 2024 and 2025. The board ultimately sees it as a 2-year bill. It has been a struggle. It's been tried 3 different times. Last year, the priority was SB 525, which is a minimum wage bill, so that really took all of our attention. But there's a consensus from large hospital systems to medium urban, suburban hospitals to rural critical access hospitals that we need to ultimately figure this issue out, because it is in the tunes of billions of dollars of work that needs to be performed in the state of California. Mm-hmm. And we, as a health industry, as all of the hospital systems are essentially stating to our community, is this how you want to see your healthcare dollars spent, really, for the next generation? Because there will be large loans taken out to meet these requirements. So I actually invite this public notice effort because it does shine at a local level a lot of light on the challenge. And I actually would like to see us start to quantify the dollars of all of the projects that we have and start sharing that with, our other local leaders. So I think it'll get pushed back, but this is good work in terms of notifying the public what we are up against.
And if I could add to that, to Louis' comment, and I should call this out specifically, we estimate the present value cost of reaching compliance at $78 million right now.
I had a meeting with all of the area managers. These are the various governmental agencies, special districts, CHP, and so forth, probably within the last month. And I shared with them the requirements that the state places upon a hospital to, in essence, really develop and exhibit a freestanding city that, should there be an earthquake or a major disruption, that it's not good enough for us to be connected to a public electric utility source, natural gas source, water source, sewage source. So in addition to all of the structural strengthening, we have to be an independent city relative to all those power supplies and relative to potable water and sewage. And they thought, and these are our local area government managers, they thought that was the most unrealistic thing they'd ever heard, to be honest. But they were shocked what we as California hospitals are asked to do.
Well, when you consider, too, that we're in a better financial position than, 99% of the similarly sized hospitals to absorb a cost like this, what are the rest of them going to do?
Right, I mean, this is a huge, $78 million is a huge risk number to us too.
Sure.
So it's, but yeah, most are just saying, what they're really saying out there is, we can't afford it. If you want to enforce it, you're going to have to close this.
Well, I want to second Louis' point, because I think it's really important that our community know about this, because it is, if we have to do it, we have to do it, but that's how we're spending our healthcare dollars. And there are people that would rather see us spending those dollars on environmental improvements, healthcare improvements, more clinics, more parking facilities that will help both our employees, physicians, and our patients. So $78 million that we would have to come up with in the next few years pretty much limits anything we can do in those other categories. And we think we really need to get the public understanding that. I think we should join every organization we can where we can get that message across.
I think the other thing that we have to think about is, one of the things that I had posed to Harry was, why does the state require the whole state to do it when not the whole state is at risk for having a earthquake that's going to affect them? The other part of doing the seismic, meeting the seismic regulations is the time that will be down in terms of patient care, availability of services, because those are the areas of the hospital that are going to have to be retrofitted or redone, and that means services won't be rendered. And that, I think, is a concern for the town as well. So lots of reasons that seismic is going to be a real burden beside financially. Any comments from our audience?
And
So
in
Harry,
closing, it's a huge unfunded mandate.
Yeah. So do you think that you want to put something together at some point so that we can get this out to the community and we can bring it to a town meeting or something, just again, information?
Yeah, I think we should, and so it's been intentional that I've been covering different angles of this in my reports to the board too, so that people can read it, because it's been a shock for us, even that have been in healthcare a long time, to reflect on the engineering, logistics, and the cost of just two elements, just the potable water and the sewage is a phenomenal hurdle to overcome, separate from structural strengthening.
Okay.
Well, just to second what I've been saying, I think the newspaper needs to run some articles on this, and I think our cohorts in the town, city council, town council would be of interest to them to understand where our resources are being directed.
Okay. Okay. Well, if they're, got a lot of work ahead of you. Dylan, thank you, though. Thank you for what you've put into letting us know what's going to be coming down the pike for us.
Appreciate the time.
We'll move on to 14.3, the Celebrating Excellence, a Year of Outstanding Achievement. And I think we've got our Chief Operating Officer and our CEO to start the presentation.
We have the whole team.
The team of one.
No, we're gonna, the table chair is.
Around, you can pass around the mic.
Yeah. Plans today.
Rather than growth. It should have been, we usually have growth there.
I know, it's changed officially.
You can have this one there.
But does this work? What's the order? Like they're gonna break out into song or something.
Yeah.
We practice this skit all day.
Put into Chat GPT and do it in iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
We can't even figure out what chance to say. You didn't put our names.
You're an IT guy.
You give it to the IT.
Do we have our C batteries in it?
Need to get our tackles and guards. Unfortunately, they finally have.
I got nothing.
He turned it on.
Oh, he did, okay.
All right.
Keep that.
Can someone sterilize that before it's passed on?
Drop the beat, go. Yeah.
I think we are ready to go. So thank you very much, Chair Wong and more members of the board. Tonight we are excited to take you through a year of outstanding achievements. You may know this document as our annual achievements. We wanted to really take an approach where we can visually take you through what was a very successful year here at Tahoe Forest Health System. I do want to start off by thanking Martina for her valiant effort on this document. She did a great job. If you like it, it's all her idea. If you don't like it, send it my way, probably because I asked her. So we'll just get right into it, and we will have Dr. Evans cover quality.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Martina, for doing this. This is really very nice slide deck. I'm going to set a standard for brevity. I'm talking to all you guys down here. Just make sure that's clear. Brevity is good. So we're going to start with quality, and we could spend a lot of time on quality, but we will start with the Beta Quest for Zero, which is part of the Beta program. There's multiple different ways to demonstrate that you're providing safe patient care, high quality. This includes both Tahoe Forest and Incline. By the way, it says Tier 2. There is no Tier 3. We are the top tier. I'll just make that clear. And this does actually result in reduction of dollars spent for insurance. So this is a good thing for us to be succeeding in. There's the Beta Heart validation. I think most of you are probably familiar with this. We were the first hospital to actually achieve validation in all 5 domains. And those domains include things like culture of safety, event response, communication and transparency, care for the caregiver, and then early resolution when there's issues. So these are all very important things, and we see this play out on a daily basis. It's an extraordinary thing. We do want to celebrate the HFAP reaccreditation. I think you guys are all very familiar with that. Now they'll be known going forward as ACHC, but this is a triennial thing, and we have to do that in order to show that we meet the conditions of participation from CMS, which we do, and it was a very good reaccreditation survey. We were very proud of that. We also, as of September the 7th, are verified as a Level 3 trauma center through the American College of Surgeons. To me, this is really fundamental to who we are as an organization. And I think when the community thinks about what Tahoe Forest is, they think about trauma, they think about ski and snowboarder accidents and mountain biking accidents and car accidents and many other trauma things, and certainly our orthopedics program. But it involves a great many of us, and this is a heavy lift for many people, so very proud of that. Also want to celebrate the Cal Hospital Compare Honor Roll for opioid care. This means that we do an outstanding job, essentially, of identifying individuals who have an opioid addiction issue, making sure that we connect them to treatment as rapidly as possible, and we reduce the likelihood of overdose deaths in our community, which is a huge national problem. So that's been a lot of good work as well. We've done many process improvements for CMS 5-star rating. I think that we've spoken about this a fair amount in the past, but you should probably know we have, there are about 30 of the 48 5-star metrics that we follow and actually have to report out on, and we need a bundle for all 30 of those, and so we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that we have those bundles and that we are monitoring those bundles. So that's still somewhat a work in progress, but a ton of really good work has been done already on that. I want to talk a little bit about the MD Stat module for OPPE reporting. That is about to launch and go live. This is going to be a major improvement for our clinicians. We're required, by the way, to report out on what's called ongoing professional performance evaluation, OPPE. That's a requirement for our board and for the Medical Board of California. And so far, we haven't really been able to produce outstanding reports on that. And so the software that we have now, the module we have now, will be able to produce meaningful results for our docs and our APPs so they can actually take advantage of that and improve their care. Wanted to mention the multidisciplinary peer review committee. This is a major upgrade to the way that we do peer review at Tahoe Forest. It is designed to look for system issues. It's designed to be non-punitive, but really look for how can we provide safe care, and it involves expertise from many disciplines to look at cases where there are system issues, and that's been going very, very well. We actually meet again tomorrow morning at 7. And then the Good Catch Award. So we do the Good Catch Award quarterly. This is a very important thing in terms of identifying areas of risk to patients. And so one thing we do on a regular basis, every day actually, is ask if people have concerns about safety and any patient safety issues. And so we catch all sorts of things because of that, and we recognize when people have a good catch. And so every quarter we award that to somebody. And one of the examples of that was identifying that we were going to have an impending epinephrine shortage, and that could have had disastrous consequences. And so the people who recognized that early before anybody else did, and then we took steps to avert that, they were recognized with a Good Catch Award. So that was very cool. I think you can go to the next slide. Thank you.
So we'll go into service.
I'm going to keep on rolling, I guess. Yeah, it's super fancy. So there's lots of different ways that we can be awarded for the experience that is provided to our patients at Tahoe Forest, and we've certainly benefited from a lot of awards. I mean, it really is remarkable when you look at some of the scores we have. So the Press Ganey Guardian of Excellence Award, which, man, that's a nice sounding award, by the way, and we are the recipients of that. And that's for reaching and sustaining patient experience scores that are above the 95 percentile rank in the nation for a full year. We've done it 4 years in a row. And that's for emergency department care as well as inpatient care. So extremely impressive, honestly. I mean, that's, we should feel good about that one. The next one is the 2023 Women's Choice Award for hospitals in emergency care, OB, and patient experience. And so, this is one of those ones where it's a little like leapfrog, but it's for women's care. And so, again, we should be proud of that. We looked at the overall patient satisfaction increase, which in FY23 was 95.25. That was in excess of our goal, and it improved from 22. So very, very good scores. Our overall HCAP scores. Do you guys know what HCAPS is for, by the way? I'll just quiz you real quick. I won't test you on the acronym.
Is it health consumer?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're almost in the toffee-worthy range right there.
Assessment of...
It's the Hospital Consumer Assessment of healthcare
professionals.
No toffee for you.
Providers and systems. You caught me. It's a hard acronym, I will admit it.
It is.
What you should know, though, is it's inpatients. This is not outpatient scores, so it's just inpatients, people that were discharged home, okay? And we are just crushing it on that. We still are in the 99th percentile for rate this hospital 9 or 10. Same thing for recommend the hospital. CMS compare 5-star recognition. So we're just dominating on that, and continue to do that. I want to mention the teleneurology program. This is a major patient satisfier, but it's really about high quality care for patients with strokes. So if somebody has a stroke and they need to be evaluated right away, if you were in the emergency department, we'd fire up the robot. There'd be a neurologist on there before anything else happened. I mean, it's really, really rapid. So you get the scan, get the neurologist there, and you can figure out what to do for a stroke patient. And people are they're loving that system now. And then I could spend an hour, but won't, on management systems transformation. We talked about this at the town halls. Talked about it 4 times, actually, at the town halls. And I'm very excited and optimistic about the way this is really going to transform Tahoe Forest and the way that we manage ourselves, the way we make decisions, the way that we monitor the work we're doing, the way that we connect the pillars of, that are important to this organization to the work that's being done at the front lines. And then the Access to Care project, I'll just, once again say that's the first sort of foray into management systems, and that's been going very, very well. Focused, structured rounding process for the AC. I think this has been a good thing. I think it's gotten all of us to have more face time with people that are on the front lines, have them have the opportunity to ask questions. We can talk about things that are important, and it's really just good for relationship building as well. So those are, I think, all of mine on service.
All right. Now get ready for motion sickness. Yeah.
Good evening, Scott Baker, Vice President, Physician Services. I get to brag on our Physician Service Provider Services Department for the year. We've spent a lot of time concentrating on the relationship of including clinical leadership in a lot of our processes and strategic discussions. And among those is the Partnership Council, which is essentially made up of the medical directors and other key clinical leaders throughout the organization coming together once a quarter to talk about key strategic planning and objectives, making them part of the conversation, but also helping to drive some of those conversations in their departments. We also installed a new Chief Wellness Officer, Dr. Josh Kreis, sent him to some very specific training down in the Bay Area, and he's come back and provided some great guidance in that world. We also installed an APP lead position for the first time in the organization's history. Sam Smith has taken that on and done a tremendous job for us. And I understand that there's a quarterly journal club consisting of a lot of toffee, so it can get a little rowdy. But they get together once a quarter, I believe, and have good conversations around journal articles and things like that. In addition, the orthopedic PA program, we installed the last portions of a plan to have 5 PAs supporting 4 orthopedic surgeons. It's kind of a best in breed for the orthopedic world, not only driving better patient experience, but better outcomes as well. The engagement bonus for physicians, we just finished restructuring that, provide a little more flexibility in that world, and that compensates physicians for their time spent on doing things that are not traditionally part of being a physician employee, attending committee meetings, strategic meetings, things like that. Early in the year, we completed a lean project for the PED service line to improve the efficiency of that service line overall, provide a little bit of guidance and long-term strategy as well. The second and third floor of the medical office building opened, providing room to grow, which we all needed. It also provided additional room to grow for the urgent care down on the first floor by separating primary care and urgent care. We started doing some cardiology procedures. I'll give Trent another shout out for helping support that program, doing more cardiology procedures here that would normally go down the hill to another organization. And then the chart on the right provides a little bit of a pictorial representation, but the punchline is we increased total visit counts in the clinics by about 8% this year, improved gross charges by almost 28%. So another strong year of growth in the clinics. And back to Louis.
All right, so we're going to move into community. And first off, we'll start with community health. This year we completed our 2023 through 2025 Community Health Improvement Plan, which really sets out goals for moving into future years. We also have the Community Health Advocates increasing patient outreach from 247 patients or contacts to 611 per month, so a real increase in the care we're provided out in the community there. Deployed a 3-year grant with the Sierra Community House. This is really an extension of work that has gone on here for some time, but we did commit to an additional 3 years to assist the work and the programs that the Sierra Community House performs for the community. And we completed a Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, often referred to as JEDI, certificate program. I was a part of that group, and it was really informative, and it was good to get people well aware of, current laws, if we were meeting all laws, which we are, but clearly there are some coming in the future we wanted to make sure we were aware of. And we also hired a new population health director in Megan Shirley, so we're really excited to onboard her in the work of population health. So we'll move to mental and behavioral health with Scott again.
I won't read through all of these bullet points, but we made a concerted effort to push forward a lot of the zero suicide initiatives. That's a national program you've probably heard a lot about. We've had a lot of successes, including screening for depression at the clinic level. Some of the programs for staff reported great improvements there and things of those nature. We also earned a $2.3 million grant to provide additional space dedicated to behavioral health. That came at a great time because that space has already been dedicated in the MOB, which embeds behavioral health in our primary care clinics. In addition, as our behavioral health program has grown, we've started to reorganize the management structures to provide better leadership and more efficient processes for the patients, and that's a work in progress as well. Back to Louis.
So our prevention and wellness, we had our community health team, those that educate and outreach to our community, see more than 34,000 times where they were able to communicate and educate the community. So that was just amazing work. If you've been to really any event, organized event in particularly Truckee and surrounding communities, you will always see us out there, and we're usually playing little games with the community and trying to teach them about health. So I think they do a great job out there. And chronic disease management, more than 2,200 community contacts for targeted disease screenings, chronic disease management interventions, of course, cholesterol, diabetes, just being two to name, but just amazing work that team is doing as well.
Does that include COVID?
I don't think COVID falls in a chronic disease. I mean,
So you got long COVID, but it wasn't part of that.
yeah,
Okay, I think we're going to me.
we are going to TED.
Although we have, many partnerships in our communities that we serve, we're going to highlight our participation with the TART micro transit program, TART Connect. We were a founding contributor in the very first pilot, you may recall, and the second pilot, and the current pilot, which is a one-year pilot. Just to give you some factoids about the success of the program overall, the transit ridership in fiscal year 22-23 in Truckee is up 285% over 21-22. So it's becoming very well known and being depended upon. We do have an in-house expert on its ups and downs, frequent flyer, Martina Rochefort, and so she can fill you in on the day-to-day aspects of TART. Also, the cost, I think this is interesting, the cost per passenger for taking a trip, the first year was $22 plus per passenger and has now dropped to $13. That's indicative of its greater use. And more applicable to us here at the district is 5% of passengers who have indicated their trip purpose indicated going to or from doctor's appointments. Now, 5% of all rides may seem like a low percentage, but the reality is that's 6,620 trips just in the past little over a year that the pilots have been operating. It is a very important tool, not only to our
6,000
patients.
is the 5%, or that's total rides?
5% of total rides
Is 6,000 rides?
is 6,620
Wow.
to the Gateway area, to Tahoe Forest, or from. It is a great tool for our staff, given the fact that Lyft has no longer got a valid presence in our region. And we used to have multiple taxi companies prior to COVID, and we no longer have that. So for getting patients to and from appointments and discharge transportation, it's a very, very valuable tool. We can move on to the next slide. On legislative achievements, ordinarily, we can give you a rundown of the bills that we've opposed, the bills that we've supported, the letters that we've written, and the meetings we've attended. In this case this year, we've chosen to show you 2 bills in California and 2 bills in Nevada that we're particularly proud of our involvement in. I don't need to go too deeply into the bills themselves because you have heard report outs on them. You heard Mr. Ward refer to SB 525, the minimum wage legislation in California, very draconian when it was first introduced, much more heavily amended in its final format. Now, Mr. Ward serves on the board at CHA and was instrumental in working that angle because much of the negotiation occurred with the CHA. My role was on the front end, letter writing, knocking on doors, things of that nature. Played a significant role in getting that bill actually signed by the governor in its current format. We will see some cleanup legislation on it because it does impact the state too. But I will tell you that the governor signed the bill at 10 minutes after 9 on the last day possible to sign the bill. AB 242 in California is a wood bill. This was a kind of a cleanup bill, but very important to us. We've been employing physicians under an employment model under AB 2024, passed six years ago, which was a pilot program which was going to sunset on January 1st of 2024. So this bill enables us to continue to utilize that model and in perpetuity. So it's a permanent structure now for critical access hospitals in California. There's another bill that's become a 2-year bill that is going to perhaps extend that to rural hospitals, whether they're a CAW or not. The reason this is up here is we participated in direct conversations with legislators and multiple testimony at committee hearings in both the Senate and in the Assembly by request of the author. We were a very important part of his story, and that bill was successful and signed into law. On the Nevada side, we have 2 bills. SB 241, which is the bill that requires the state plan for Medicaid to provide coverage for certain critical access hospitals, and AB 277, which establishes the rural emergency hospital designation for qualifying hospitals. Also very important to us because of Incline Village. The reason that this is up here is because you might see that photograph down there on the lower left. Mr. Ward and myself were invited to attend the bill signing of both bills. You don't get invited to attend a bill signing unless you are an active participant in the success of those bills, which we were, both through the NHA and through multiple testimony down at the legislature before both House and Senate committees. So we are very proud of the fact that we were a player and made a difference, a notable difference in the success of these 4 bills. And then, of course, we continue with our efforts. As you can see by the other photographs, we had Governor Lombardo over at the Incline Village Community Hospital. And in the other photograph, we have both Governor Lombardo and Governor Newsom and Senator Alvarado Gil in that photograph. I do have a photograph that I'm willing to let go to the highest bidder of our board chair having a spirited conversation with Governor Newsom, if you'd like to see it. I think that's a valuable photograph. And that concludes my report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Owens. Moving on to foundation. So I love talking about the foundations because this is a group of volunteers that come together and their sole effort is to raise funds that ultimately helps us either purchase equipment or fund buildings and fund programs. So they do some amazing work. This year, the Truckee Foundation, the Tahoe Forest Health System Foundation, successfully raised $987,000 and some change. And the majority of that funding was used for the 3T MRI machine that was installed this past year. The Giving Tuesday campaign purchased several pieces of equipment for the emergency department, including trauma gurney, GE Panda baby warmer, and that was, of course, to support the level 3 trauma and pediatric readiness programs. And they are still receiving grants to support behavioral health services. And Incline Village Community Hospital Foundation had an incredible year.
Knocked it out of the park.
Successful year, raising $3.9 million. Primary funding focused on completely renovating the diagnostic imaging space to purchase, and of course to purchase, a 128 slice CT machine, which arrived yesterday and was wheeled into the hospital. A new fixed X-ray machine, and adding a 3D mammography machine, and that service has not been available to the community for quite some time. So we're really, really looking forward to bringing that back. Incline board voted to fund the entire diagnostic imaging project for a total of $6.9 million. And again, about $3.8 million of that was raised through a fund called the Helmsley Charitable Family Trust. So we couldn't be more thankful for our 2 foundations. And I did want to call out the Spirit of Giving Award. This year, you may remember this award as the Hob Day Spirit of Giving Award. Shortly after the stillbirth of their daughter, Annalise King Hall, Josh and Lindsay Hall started a fund to help families facing this same kind of profound loss by pioneering a supportive fetal demise program. And since establishing the Annalise King Hall Fund, it has provided bereavement training to nurses so that they are better equipped to support families after a loss, a mother's milk bank to bring human milk to babies when absolutely critical situations arise, cuddle cots, giving grieving parents an opportunity to bond with their babies, memorial wind chimes to mourning families giving comfort and remembrance, comfort kits to families who have experienced a stillbirth or a miscarriage, advanced fetal monitoring for tracking rate and rhythm of fetal heartbeats, and a neonatal resuscitation device, ensuring that our clinical team has the best equipment available. And so these two, I mean, clearly, a terrible situation, but they absolutely came together and really took that heartbreak and wanted to develop a way to assist other families, and also very much thought about our own clinical staff here and the difficulties they go through when an event like that occurs. So just meeting them and spending some time around them, it was really an amazing opportunity to spend time with them. And so we'll go into people, and that would be Alex.
Hi there. All right. So one thing I want to mention is that all of the stuff we're talking about tonight is done by people. So it's really everything our teams have done is under the people category. But just a few things noteworthy. We onboarded 363 new team members. It's pretty impressive to think that our team is onboarding that many people. It's a lot of people. So it's just a huge shout out to my HR team. They've been doing an amazing job. Incorporated the multi-specialty clinics into the union contracts. That negotiation went on for about 6 months. So really happy that we came out of that with the contracts that we did, with both unions being extremely happy as well. So really proud of that. As you know, we were awarded the 3rd place in the 2023 Greater Reno Tahoe Best Places to Work. We were in the large business category, and I just want to note that the reason we were in the large category versus our normal extra large category is because we were the only finalists in the extra large category. So we should have won them. That's what my argument was. But apparently, the rules say that if that happens, you drop down into the next category. So winning 3rd place with competition that have less than, I think it's 200 employees, is remarkable and a huge accomplishment. So really proud of that. I think we launched the PEAK program, which is the Professional Excellence and Advancement and Kudos program. It's basically a career ladder for nursing. And we are working now to get physical therapy into that program or a program similar. Just a couple of notes on that. When we launched that program in October, we had 22% of our nursing joined that program and initiated the PEAK Level 1. We currently have 17% of applicable from that 17% remain in the program. And I just wanted to note a couple of the things that they have initiated during their PEAK program. So some of the things they've done are they've joined committees, they've initiated projects, engaged in community stewardship, obtained certifications, taught their colleagues, became super users on equipment, revised policies, they've shadowed leaders, they've researched for department initiatives, they've created patient education, they've helped with care for their caregiver activities, and many other accomplishments to support the mission, vision, and values. So really happy this program's going and really excelling our nursing profession altogether. With that, we've got our engagement. You've seen this, but I wanted you to be reminded of it. We are at the 91st percentile in employee engagement. That, if you consider it out of all the hospitals, 6,000 hospitals, we only have about 600 that beat us out. So we've got some work to do, but we're pretty dang proud of that. That's a really remarkable accomplishment, considering where we were back in 2014, sitting at the 59th percent, and then 2017, we were at the 63rd percent. I think we've done a remarkable job in the past few years, really bringing that up. So really proud of that number too. Thanks.
So we also want to celebrate our volunteers. We had Nan Healy win the Nevada Hospital Association Volunteer of the Year, very deserving of this award. Nan actually has put in more than 20,000 hours of volunteerism to the Incline Village Community Hospital. So essentially an employee down there, right?
I'm surprised to learn she was a volunteer because every time I went in there, I just thought, I was like, you need a laptop?
Yeah, I mean, she is the one that puts together the golf tournament. She puts together the lobster feed, and just a massive amount of work. And then, of course, she spends a lot of hours in the gift shop as well. And she's just always around. So she won the award this year, and we see that absolutely as an achievement for the health system as well. So she's just great to have.
We also wanted to recognize Gail Shady. Gail's been with us. She celebrated 45 years this past year, but currently I actually reached out to get some stats because it's so impressive. So she's been at the hospital now for 46 years and 2 months, and she's been commuting from Casper, Wyoming for nearly a decade to come to Tahoe Forest. She is known as the wise one. She's known as the wise one at work and is a resource to all. She is solely responsible for the OR's chart audits. Gail has come full circle. She started off as a staff nurse, then she was a supervisor, then an acting director, and then she went back to a staff nurse. And in the early days, they were laid off from work early, and like midweek, and she had a pass at Alpine because she lived in Tahoe City. So when she left work, she would go ski on her way home. And apparently OR nurses used to have to break all the other departments. So she would have to go to Women and Family and the ER to give lunch breaks and dinner breaks.
Wow.
Apparently those were the days. So congrats to Gail Shady.
Fun fact, she actually, when she's here, she stays with a second longest tenure employee that works here, and I think she's right behind her at about 45 years. So the two of them together, have about 90 years of experience to talk about at night here at the health system. So we'll move into finance with Crystal.
So finance, we're just going to hit some highlights of how we've done in the current year. From a total cash perspective, you can see between the two categories, we're at about $145 million. That is down from last year, but last year we still had some COVID funds that were provided by the federal government that we returned. It was the Medicare funds that they advanced to us that we didn't need to utilize. So that's the drop in our cash balance, but came out very, very strong. Next slide. Cash collections. This is really important to continue to see increase as the organization has grown and generated additional gross revenue, therefore additional net revenue. We would expect our cash collections to improve as well. So the cash collections are up, the cash per day is up. I do want to give kudos to those employees that have a touch to our patients, and also to our business office and partnered vendors that help us with our billing, bringing that cash in. So it's really important we continue to keep that strong, and that's the trend you're seeing here right now. Next slide. Revenue versus expense. So the very top line is our net revenue, and all the bar underneath is our expenses in various categories. We definitely want to see a gap between that net revenue and our expenses, which basically equates to we had some net income for the year. And so we want to see that gap between those two categories, and we do want to see that continued growth in our net income as well. You can see in 21 and 22 that gap was a little wider than we're showing in 23, and that's okay. We're going to have some not as great years. We'll have a few more to come, I'm sure, but the meaning here is let's see that gap. So that's a positive trend. Margin, here again, we want to see our net position, our net margin actually be a positive number. You'll see in 2013, our net position was actually negative. And so over the years, we've worked very hard to improve our financial position, which creates financial stability for the organization, which allows us to continue to reinvest in the district and be here for our patients in the future. So we want to continue to see that net position be strong, as well as our net margin percentage be strong, and that's what this trend demonstrates here. Next slide. Oh, that's the end for me.
So now we've taken you through the pillars: quality, service, community, people, and finance. And we do want to really highlight some of the department achievements. And so we're going to start with Jake in IT.
Are you ready for the excitement?
Bring it.
It's IT. Let's see. We had a very busy year. I think I had 3 or 4 pages worth of stuff that was distilled down into these 7 bullet points here. One of the biggest things we did this year, we switched from Epic has its back-end software was called Hyperspace. That was kind of the backbone that ran all of their various applications. Epic Corporation was sunsetting that. We got a year ahead of time notice, and Mercy was working our partners at Mercy were working very hard on making that a smooth transition. 3 months prior to us going, we started testing it, training, and going to departments. So that was a lot of work for just about every part of my 2 departments. But if IT's doing a good job, you don't hear about us. So there wasn't a lot of, you didn't hear a lot about the hyperdrive conversion because it went pretty well. With that, we took that as an opportunity to start sitting elbow to elbow with some of our providers. We figured after, what are we on, almost 7 years now of Epic, our contract's coming up. You lose some over the years, and so we did some elbow to elbow support with some of our providers to just, in any kind of software, especially one as complicated as an electronic health record, there's 35 ways to skin a cat. So we're trying to, standardize on how we do things, not only in all of our, as Trent, in the ORs and our work with Vizient and all of that, but we also want to standardize on the way we do things in Epic. It may not be the best way, but we'll get there, right? You learn over time. So we've had some very good feedback from that, so I'm proud of my team for doing that. We had a lot of projects this year, like 70-something projects. Some of the bigger ones was the CARE 2 transferring. That's the California immunization registry. So that's where we were dumping all of our immunizations during the COVID time and all of that. So that was a quick turnaround. Resident scheduler, a new coagulation analyzers that we've put in, new glucometers and blood culture analyzers integrated with the application for the lab. We had to get compliant with Carey's law, which is if you dial 911 from any phone, doesn't matter if it's a phone in the patient room or in the front desk, it will alert the proper authorities with your location. And there's a lot happening in the phone areas right now in the world. And we put cell phone boosters down in various areas of the hospital where it was weak. A lot of technical upgrades. We did IT initiatives for the data protection and really created a cybersecurity division, which we didn't really have. We had that before, but not kind of like, like Trent's conversation, like, oh, you don't have a perioperative committee. It was like, well, we talk, but so we went ahead and promoted one of our internal folks. We have partnered, like you've heard me talk about before, with Fortified and Critical Insights, our vendors. And with their help, we successfully protected over 1 million attempts to access our system. Things we would not have, we would have blocked them before with firewalls, but now with our new stuff, we can see it and count it and measure it. And we closed close to 10,000 help desk tickets last year, which is, they're 4 away.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man. But if you put 10,000 on there, you're like, he's either rounding up or rounded down.
I would have called in for just.
Yeah.
Do my laptop.
They know I don't call the help desk.
Should have added 4 more. All right, so we're going to move on to Scott Baker with the Cancer Center.
I got a lot to brag about. So the Cancer Center went through the reaccreditation with the Commission on Cancer. They came on site and did their survey, and directly from the surveyors, they said it was one of the most impressive reaccreditations they've done. They went through that process and had 0 deficiencies, which only happens in less than 4% of their surveys. So that's something to be extremely proud of. In addition, the Cancer Link program, we've submitted 89.51%, which is something that only 1% of the participants achieved. We are participating in 22 national quality measures, which far exceeds any of the national or state programs. And we received one of 3 $20,000 grants, as you can read. And we had a lot of collaboration between the Cancer Center oncology team and urgent care and primary care to ensure that patients stay out of the ED whenever possible to receive additional infusion or infusion complications and things of that nature. So great coordination between those programs. For ortho, on the next slide, for the 9th year in a row, we are an Own the Bone star performer. That's the U.S. News and World Report program concentrating on quality and outcomes for the orthopedic program. So long-standing tradition, and very proud of the orthopedic leadership on that one. And over to you.
All right, so you may have been thinking you haven't heard from Jan, but Jan has a lot of successes, so you're going to hear from her for a while.
Go, Jane.
Okay.
Brevity.
So first, we'll start off with our ECC, or our skilled nursing facility. So due to COVID, ECC was supposed to be surveyed back in the 2020 year, but because of COVID, obviously that got pushed off, and we kept wondering when that survey was ever going to come. Well, it did, and they had a successful annual CDPH survey. And so we are perfectly compliant with CMS. We are trying to increase the census of filling all available beds, and that's what we call our custodial beds. And at this point, those beds are full. Due to the California or the CDPH regulation, we still have to hold 3 beds for a COVID outbreak. So we still have 3 beds that we have to maintain for that. But we have increased our rehab skilled beds, and this was really a collaborative effort between not only Maggie's crew in the ECC, but also our occupational therapy and our PT therapy to be part of having these rehab skilled beds open. So at this point, with our staffing and with our patient need, we have 4 beds at a time. So at any given time, we could have 4 patients in rehab. Like right now, I think we have 2. And we also employed a full-time restorative aide, to help keep our residents active and showing less decline. This person does all kinds of different activities with our patients in the ECC. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, we got a new van not that long ago, a couple months ago. And so now this person is also taking our residents for the first time since COVID out on little trips, events, picnics, go get ice cream, all kinds of fun things that they weren't able to do during COVID.
Can anybody go ice cream?
So on to case management and care coordination. Our case management group has worked really hard to decrease our all-cause Medicare readmission rate for quarter 2 2022 to quarter 1 2023. and that's down to 12.7%. We hired a medical assistant to support care coordination in the trauma program with all the callbacks and follow-up care. So all of our trauma patients that come through the ER are called back, and what we're really trying to make sure, this is the group that calls them back, is to make sure that they have follow-up care, with the different specialties that they have to follow up. And then one of our care coordinators, Jackie, and some of the other team developed and implemented a Wise Mind program. And that's for, it's a series for the cognitive assessment and improvement. So it's, looking at our patients with dementia or with Alzheimer's that live in our community. And they've really had a great success with that program so far. And then just providing a senior needs gap assessment that they provided to us and to the board. And they'll continue to look at needs for seniors in our community. So the emergency department, as Brian mentioned earlier, we had the beta quest for Zero Tier 2 achieved for both emergency departments. And they also received the 2023 Women's Choice for the best hospital in emergency care. When you look at our ER numbers,
Surprised I haven't already done that.
Yeah. So when you look at our emergency department visits, as you can see, they're pretty stable over, and the light blue line is incline, the green is Tahoe Forest. And as you can see at both ERs, the numbers are staying relatively stable. We don't, we have some years that have gone up, and, this last 2023 did see a slight increase, but otherwise they're basically stable. Surgical services. I won't talk really too much about the Optum because we just went over that in depth. But then, like Trent mentioned earlier, we did implement the cardiac service line that was established in June 15th of this past 2023. We started the endoscopy service at IVCH, and as of May 26, we have done 111 cases. Which is quite an achievement. We thought at first we would start slow, maybe, 5 or 6 cases, and we were kind of a little worried when Dr. Nashianda had like 8 or 9 cases the next week, and the following week he had 10 cases, and we're like, okay, so much for just doing 6 cases. Yeah. So they've really done well, and the team over there has done a great job. The physician engagement efforts was what we talked about with the, what Trent talked about with Optum, where we're working with the surgeons and anesthesiologists on volume scorecards. And then a new ad was also our interventional radiology nurse. So what happened is our nurses from PACU would, one of them would float over to work with our radiologists on their interventional day. And that was working fine. But I think what we found for the radiologists, if we had one certain dedicated nurse who was well-trained in this area, who came to us well-trained in interventional radiology, that it really helped them be able to be more efficient and be able to really provide an increase for the procedural support that they needed. And so far, that program has really worked out well. Inpatient services. So like Brian had mentioned earlier, just like the emergency room, the inpatients also received the Press Ganey Guardian of Excellence Award, and that was for the score of 95% for the one full year. Inpatient services also ranked in the top 5% over the last 3 consecutive years, so they got to earn even another Press Ganey Award, which was the Pinnacle of Excellence Award. MedSurg has done a lot of work over the last year, thanks to Trent and Nicole. They initiated a change of shift huddle, and that was to help with communications between day and night shift. And they also implemented their new fall risk protocol, which include increasing awareness by the nursing staff and patients and care techs of using the yellow gowns, the bed alarms, and the chair alarms. And we saw a huge success with that program in decreasing our inpatient falls. So as you can see here, this is our average daily census and length of stay. And as you can see over the years, and this is not just Tahoe Forest, this is a lot of hospitals. As you can see, our inpatients are decreasing. And this graph will show you that, yes, we did hike up there in that 2020 and that 2021, and we thought maybe that was going to be the new norm. But as you can see, starting in 2022 to current, we did have a significant drop. And so this is the hard part of what we're trying to figure out now, if the difference between what happened 2 years ago and what's happening now on the inpatient side, and trying to figure out staffing going forward. So Med-Surg increased the capacity of an RN for cardiac and pediatric patients. So all of our staff, with the increase of RSV season last year, we kind of got a hold on it just right before RSV started, was trying to make sure that our Med-Surg staff was very comfortable in taking these pediatric, most of them young, under 2, with RSV. We introduced the new pediatric scoring tool, and that was to help with those RSV pediatric patients. Education included emergency assessment and recognizing and stabilization, which is the PAIRS program that we had offered to our Med-Surg nurses. And that was for just increasing their comfort for these pediatric patients. And we still continue to meet with the pediatricians and the staff on the floor to kind of make sure we can keep that comfort going of being able to keep some of these pediatric patients in our community. We talked about I see where I am, sorry. We talked about the EKG refresher classes that we offer to our nursing staff. We also have Trent, who teaches all our new PCT techs that are onboarded. They are also taught monitoring classes so that they can also watch the monitors and be a PCT tech. And we increased the wound care education for the nursing staff. We want to make sure that it's not just one person that's taking care of all these wounds, that all of our staff is comfortable with these wounds and these wound vacs. So we increased that education. And we also increased diabetic education tools for newly diagnosed diabetic patients. We adjusted the team lead and the nursing assignments to better serve our patients, and mainly this was because what happens in Med-Surg is they can start with 17 patients in the morning, discharge 10 of them, and by 4 o'clock when the ER is ramping up, they're admitting again. And so there's this constant up and down, and really this has really kind of helped decrease that burnout on that unit, because it was really difficult for them to discharge that many and now turn around and have to admit at the end of their shift. And then, as we always are with sepsis, we're always looking at ways to improve sepsis. And so one of the ways we found was a sepsis flow sheet documentation in order to identify them sooner on the Med-Surg unit. ICU. So ICU got with the cardiac service line, one thing for the ICU unit was to teach them about some of these cardiac patients that they were going to be receiving from the OR. Some of these cardiac patients in the cardiac service line, we do keep overnight for an observation. And so the ICU staff went through that education. All of our ICU nurses are certified in the NIHSS score, which is the inpatient stroke, for alerting if there's a patient that's having a stroke. And then we also began conducting follow-up calls for all patients discharged from the ICU to just kind of follow up, and that way we can make sure, did they get into those appointments they need? Is there something we could have done better for them? And then we had extensive cardiac training for the RNs and anticipation of the new cardiac line, which we discussed a little bit ago. And now we also have champion RNs for wound vac dressing changes in the ICU unit. And we also increased the focus of quality compliance through real-time audits. Labor and delivery is another one of our units that has been fortunate to receive some of these awards. They have their Beta Quest 0 Tier 2. They also received the 2023 Women's Choice Award for Best Hospital in Obstetrics. They also received the California Maternity Quality Care Collaborative Maternal Data Center Honor Roll. That's a huge mouthful, for 3 years, and that's for being below the benchmark for C-sections for your first-time birthing population. And then also the 2023 Cal Hospital Compare Honor Roll for maternity care. And then they also have now their baby-friendly designation extended through 2027. So as you can see, this OB unit's high achievers on their awards. So, and this just kind of shows our deliveries. Again, as you can see, from 2013 to 2023, our deliveries are pretty stable. Yes, there's some up and downs here, but we're remaining kind of stable on the births, and that includes numbers from the Quincy facility or Plumas district that closed their OB services, and we receive about 2 to 4 patients a month from them at this point.
Okay, so Jan and her team do a lot here. So we're very, very thankful for all of those departments. Moving on to occupational health, we're excited to announce that we implemented a new electronic health record. It's called Net Agility, and it really modernized that department quite a bit. They were using a lot of paper prior to this, and it was a specific electronic medical record for occupational health, so that was great. We also hired 2 new medical directors. They serve in a co-medical director role, and that's Dr. Petrovsky and Dr. Molnar, and they've been amazing to work with. Oftentimes they're actually using Zoom to zoom in, and they show up on site intermittently, but that's been a really good relationship for us. And we, of course, look to expand roles of RNs in clinics for employee health visits to make sure they're working at the top of their license. And we have a community partnership with Palisades Tahoe. We actually, in this case, we took an APP and moved that APP out one day a week out to Olympic Valley Clinic, and they actually see the employees of Palisades Tahoe for workers' comp issues. So that's been a real improvement in that relationship there. And we've established new screening guidelines for healthcare providers, which results in a true $284,000 savings. And ultimately, what we did is we really looked at our USB 800 hazardous drug physicals, Title 22, and TB annual screening. And we just made sure that, for those that maybe could go longer intervals between these screenings, and where it was medically appropriate, we definitely involved clinicians in these decisions, and we all agreed that there was money to be saved while continuing to keep everyone safe. And we successfully implemented the first telehealth visit in occupational health, and they have a patient panel that essentially are trying to return to work, and oftentimes you may find like a law enforcement officer, for example, actually able to return to work but still need to work with a clinician as they navigate, their maybe them coming back from an injury. And being able to do that through telehealth is really, really important because they can actually work and just zoom in, essentially. It's not Zoom, we're using DocSeeMe, but be able to actually come in and remain at work while getting their telehealth service. So that's been fantastic. And in terms of customer care navigation, so these are the numbers that would represent a lot of our retail efforts out there. So this is going to be patients that are joining classes, and we're seeing across the bottom you'll see months. So we're seeing an increase in the community engaging with classes found at the Tahoe Forest Center of Health, which of course moved this year as well. So we're really liking that people are seeking out services and joining groups. And then we're also looking at referrals for navigation, seeing a lot of referrals that individuals who are not sure how to navigate the health system. We have a team of individuals here that actually assist in that. So that's been fantastic effort by that team as well. And moving to the lab, we implemented high-sensitivity troponin testing for early detection of heart attack. Point-of-care glucose testing is now interfaced to Epic, so avoiding manual entry. We also had both labs successfully accredited by the College of American Pathologists following a biannual inspection. And fentanyl testing was big this year. We added fentanyl testing to all urine toxicology orders to meet the requirements of Tyler's Law and aid in our community in identifying the presence of fentanyl for patients. We also had a GI pathogen PCR panel added to perform rapidly identifying 21 bacterial parasites and viruses. So really an amazing test there. And then point-of-care iStat instruments performing blood gases, electrolytes, hemoglobin testing. And the best part about that is that all of those results are electronically sent to the patient's chart so that they can review them with their provider or see them from home. And moving on to diagnostic imaging, we brought in an industry-leading 3.0 Tesla MRI. And, you know, not only is it just top-notch equipment, and but really it seeks to dramatically decrease the time that it takes to do an exam. And so we're actually able to stay open longer, 12-hour days, and we can see more patients, so it really improves access in this space. We only have the one MRI machine, so the quicker we can do it, the more tests that we can do, the quicker we can get to patients. And then, yeah, yeah, it really is an awesome machine, and the room itself is just, there's music going. It's a nice experience. And then mammography equipment purchased at Incline. We are really looking forward to this. We do know that right now that we've seen in the past year 400 patients from Incline zip codes at this campus. So we know right away that there's potentially 400 patients that, you know, in a future year would stay local in Incline. And then we do know that there's about 4,400 women in the Incline area that are within the age for mammography services. So they are clearly traveling elsewhere. So I think with that service being provided locally, we'll see, you know, a really improved population in terms of experience. And as well as that, hopefully, those that may be putting off this crucial service will really seek it out because it's very local. And then, of course, we kicked off our Incline Village Community Hospital CT and X-ray replacement projects, which we expect that they will complete in December of this year. So we're trying to beat the snow, so hopefully that'll hold out for us.
You're going to haul the trailer away?
Yeah, yes, we want to move the trailer out as quick as we can, and we're really hoping that we don't have to dig snow out around the trailer. And the pharmacy, so retail pharmacy. I'll start with the bottom. The Tahoe Forest Pharmacy was named the best pharmacy by the North Lake Tahoe and Truckee communities, and they are the 2023 winner. It is absolutely very apparent when you go in that pharmacy. They're really all about customer service. And one thing that really improved that customer service this year was actually the RX Local app that we rolled out to the community. This is an app that you can easily see your medications, and you can just, with a couple of clicks of a button, refill those medications and then get notifications when they're ready to pick up. It really is an awesome app. So if you don't have it, you should get it, because it's a game changer with apps. You can also manage your entire family and just refill their prescriptions.
Enrolled in that? I'm sorry if you mentioned that, because
I'm not aware of how many have enrolled in the app at this point, but I know it's actively being used. Right, they're on the app, or sorry, on every receipt that comes out, there's a QR code, and I constantly see people scanning the QR code and downloading the app. So. And this is just a picture. We recently got to go over to the retail pharmacy and celebrate their their big win as being named as the best pharmacy in the community. So that was a fun day for us to get over there and celebrate them. You won't be surprised, but they were very, very busy when we showed up over there. So we had to say
I'm afraid all those donuts did not get eaten.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back in time.
So we'll zoom back out, and I heard something. I had a way to finish this, but I actually heard a comment that Alex made, and Alex, you're 100% right. It is all about the people, right? And I want to make sure that the board is well aware, and I know you are well aware, but the community is well aware that these achievements would not be possible without the amazing team that we have here at Tahoe Forest Health System. And so with that, I'd like to pass it over to Harry for some closing comments.
We have tried to share with you a tiny, tiny portion of our team of more than 1,300 people. I estimate that they put in over 2 million hours a year, and so we've tried to share with you in about an hour what 2 million hours of great team member work did. That's really all of our team members. The focus is all on our patients. They are front and center, and this is via a team of one effort that we're working on. And as we look at all of the area hospitals around us, I have to say very plainly, and I've met with about 20 facilities in the last 2 weeks, there is not one hospital in our region that is delivering the performance in all of these sectors and with the bottom line as well. All the quality, all the patient service, all of the financial terms, there's not one in our region that's doing that. So it's without peer. It's just my hat's off to our great team for their effort. And here at Tahoe Forest Health System, we really celebrate our strengths, and we are very accountable to reduce all of our weaknesses every year as well. And so we thank our community and thank the board for allowing this team of more than 1,300 to try to excel in very special ways each year.
So thank you, you amazing people, all of you. It certainly looks like it's been a busy year for you, and I hope you appreciate all the accolades you've received from organizations and other entities. But again, it's something that I think is in our DNA, that number one, we're high achievers, and number two, we thrive on work. And so thank you again. Can I have any comments from our board?
It was just amazing. Just one after another, after another, after another. I mean, amassing all of this work. It's really quite an achievement.
So you got to do better next year, you guys.
Or we'll just bring you a few beds to sleep in.
Okay.
Well, I want to say one thing, and that is, as a publicly elected board of directors, I'm so proud to have the opportunity to see the work that's being done here. And whenever I hear criticisms or people begin to see us as a institution, I try to remind them that we are people helping people, and that we go out of our way every day to do that. And that's what makes our community better. And there are so many people in my age group who say, without this hospital, they couldn't live here. So you're helping people to live in a place and an environment that they've worked all their lives to get to and stay in. So thank you for all you do.
Yep. Okay. I think that we're going to move on to our next one, which you sort of alluded to in your presentation. And are you going to do it, Louis, on our updated Foundation of Excellence?
Yes, Chairwoman.
I recognize that cough.
I know, you have a bit of one too.
I'm a little further down the line than you.
So this evening, I mean, there's been much talk about particularly one pillar in terms of what was known as our Tahoe Forest Health System organizational excellence model, or foundations of excellence. We took some efforts here to really modernize the visual look of the winning aspirations. There's a few reasons why, because we really want to get this out to the entire health system and make sure that the employees can, when they see this, that they recognize it. I kind of joked with them at the town hall that we would start making T-shirts and have them wear them, but we're probably going to do mouse pads instead. It's probably a safer bet, but really tonight we just wanted to talk to you, and we seek your approval formally to change what was one of our pillars, which was titled Growth, and we think it more accurately reflects our future to rename that Community. There's been a lot of thought put into this, but we really want, it is a community hospital, and it was developed to be that, and we strive all the time to remain as a active member of the community, but we want to really highlight those efforts under the pillar of community, and so we plan to set up a 5-year winning aspirational goal that will measure that work. We'll plan to have annual goals that we can check on each year and bring to this board for consideration of future goals. And of course, now we have the Community Engagement Committee that's got 2 members of the board that serve on that committee. And so we feel that it's the appropriate way to go forward. So this evening, you do have an action item to consider, and that is essentially changing the word growth to community for at least the next 5 years. However, I imagine community will always be a central point of our strategic plan. So with that, I also wanted to just show a few slides here of just some visual representations that you might see over the coming years. And so here's one that essentially shows our mission, vision, values, and then our winning aspirations being finance, service, quality, people, and community. And then you can see a picture of the Truckee campus. Absolutely no difference in the terms of the content here, but we do have a second campus in Incline, so we wanted to make sure that they were well represented in this as well. And so this will likely get printed and put in their community room, so that way that they have a picture there as well. And then we think that there's a lot of opportunity to use this in publications as well as just in different departments throughout the health system, that when people see it, maybe, like I could see orthopedics potentially having, a skier in that picture area there. So we think there's a lot of opportunity to use some of our external environmental beauty and bring it indoors and really show off what we're trying to do here in this beautiful community. And so we have a 4th here, just obviously an active individual there. And so we think that there's some opportunity to use like action shots as well. I do want to thank Meg Rabb for her work here, because, we gave her ideas, right? I mean, essentially we pointed at the current state of this and said, can you modernize this and make it better? We gave her a few pointers, and she really, I think, knocked it out of the park for us in terms of putting this together. So this evening, it was our effort to bring this, show you what this could look like for the future, and of course, we seek approval to change the word growth to community in our strategic plan and our organizational excellence model.
Any comments on changing the wording? That's all we're going to vote on, correctly? Just the changing of the wording from community, from...
I think kind of the general appearance, and these are like our five-year aspirational goal targets right now too that you see here, but certainly that the big change is really just changing growth to community.
I could talk through the aspirations. Many are very, very familiar to you, but finance, we of course aspire to be to have long-term financial strength. Service, we aspire to deliver a timely, outstanding patient and family experience. In quality, we aspire to deliver the best possible outcomes for our patients. People, we aspire to have a highly engaged culture that inspires teamwork and joy. And community, brand new, is we aspire to be a integrated partner in a exceptionally healthy and thriving community.
Which may or may not involve growth.
Which may or may not involve growth, but we think community more accurately represents, trying to improve the health of the community. And if growth comes, we'll just be that much better at it if we're working on this well.
Needed to meet
Yeah.
community need.
Yeah.
So all the micro strategies from the front line up to the board through senior leadership and to the board will tie back to these, as those evolve via Vizian and so forth, will tie back to these winning aspirations.
I just love this. Just want to say, I just think we are so much on the right track with this.
Yeah.
And our sense of community is tied to the nature around us. And it's so smart and wise to have part of our visuals include the beauty that surrounds us, because so many people are moved by that. There are even therapies, to get people outdoors and to appreciate and enjoy that environment.
Yeah.
And tying us to that outdoor community, I think, is really a special thing to do, and it really highlights a lot of feeling in the community and is congruent with a lot of feeling in the community. So I just think we're really headed the right direction with this.
Any other comments? Anybody?
So just with regards to what we're voting on, I didn't know what we were voting on, I guess, when when I was reviewing the packet. Like on finance, I have some thoughts or questions around that. I mean, do we want to have dialogue around that, or is it sort of like, hey, that's accepted and,
I think, now's the time to have a dialogue. I think at this point, we saw the most meaningful change away from what we had found in the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan. Was the word growth to community and kind of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of finance, we may have wordsmithed, and of course we want to use the word winning aspirations, so that's why you're seeing aspire throughout this as well.
Sure.
But there hasn't been any meaningful change or deviation from what was in the strategic plan prior. But now would be the time that we could discuss that.
I'll use finance as the example then. And actually, I loved winning aspirations and the 5-year and the aspiring to be. I love that framework. When we talk about finance, we talk about the organization. We talk about long-term financial strength. But when we we increase a focus on community, we also know that so many community members can't afford care, right? So do we have a financial goal around affordability, or is that covered under, one of the other aspirational goals?
I will make a comment, and I'll invite my colleagues to make comments as well on this, but then what we're at right here is the 5-year winning aspirations. So we're looking at a North Star goal, something that people can recall very quickly, and that goal being aspire for long-term financial strength. There will be opportunities, absolutely, to have annual goals, and we intend to work on those throughout the rest of this calendar year and well into the next calendar year. And then even below that, there will be strategic priorities and targets to measure. So, of course, when we think about affordability of healthcare, I very much expect that over the next 5 years, there's going to be places in there where, looking at the affordability of healthcare is clearly an important thing for our community. I think about, potentially the use of telehealth. There are ways that we're seeing healthcare evolving that could make healthcare more affordable, and we want to make sure that we're on the leader in the industry on that, so.
In the consent calendar, the board did approve today an enlarging, financial assistance kind of policy. And our ultimate shared fiduciary and duty as an organization is to be here for the long term so that we can provide care. And, I think our policies and everything that we do are really centered around doing that in the most efficient way. And that's the purpose of having these goals. We want to become a very efficient, high-quality provider that, again, is sustainable, because if we're not here for the long term, nothing else matters.
I don't think anyone could disagree with that. But I also don't know if it addresses my point. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to jump into this debate. I think that, the issue that you brought up, if I heard it correctly, is, are we addressing the entire community, including the people that are in our community that can't necessarily afford health insurance and are having challenges? So when you look at the service and the community pillars here, that should be addressed within those, depending upon how we build the whole thing out, and the layer below it and the layer below that. And when we look at the 5-year breakthrough goals for service, it's going to include what percentage of the community are we actually taking care of, and what percent is having to leave and go somewhere else or not be served. So I think that is covered under the service component. And then if we're driving towards an exceptionally healthy, thriving community, I think that depending on how you build out those 5-year goals and what's under those, it should be addressed. So I think that's where that lives. The financial pillar really is an internal thing of we have to be strong, we have to survive, obviously, in order to do those other things. That's my take on it.
It's probably our most fragile of these 5 right now. That might shock some of you, but again, the future is going to be very, very challenging. So as an old timer in healthcare, I'm sharing with you, it's probably our most fragile element up there.
And the one we can be most excited about, I think, is the community, right? I think there's a lot.
I got my vote, yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity there, and a lot of innovative thought that's already coming out of our own staff that they're really eager to start working on, opportunities to improve the health of the community.
I think the other thing, this is a new template, and I think as new elements of wisdom come, this model doesn't have to be hung on a wall for 5 years. It can be updated annually or whatever. We should help. A lot of things change in our world, and it doesn't have to be fixed. If we need to, certainly we have these 5-year aspirational goals, but we can tweak those. We can refresh those. It doesn't have to hang for 5 years.
Sure. And I only bring it up in that. As we scrolled through, and we didn't have this in our deck, but as we scrolled through some of the other iterations of this, hey, we could hang this out in the community. That's probably one of the things we hear most from our community, though, is healthcare's. It's not just us, right? We've talked about that at length. This is healthcare in America, but do we want to be very visible and vocal about that is an aspiration of us, or and I only bring it up as a discussion. I'm not making a recommendation that we make a change, but. I think at a very high level, and I completely recognize and accept that that's incorporated underneath many of these pillars.
Was any thought given to the order in which these appear? It seems to me that service should be the number 1.
You see its height?
Yeah, so that
it's
so
subtly higher.
We did. We actually thought about this. Now, I won't say that there was, a great deal of consensus, but we did talk about wanting to make sure that people and service were in the pillars that were, just higher, right? And, clearly we could have made a choice. Look, some people will see this document and say, what's in front, or what's from
left to right,
So I think for us, our intent was to really, highlight service and people by making them, taller, but there are absolutely opportunities to move these around.
I can tell you that as a physician, physicians will look at this, and typically they look at quality safety as number 1, and it's right in the center, and that's exactly where we want it.
Yeah, that was thought too. Put quality in the center, and I don't know that there was a way, just based on the shapes and the way, we could have done left to right, but then that might have
Or shoved
made
to the
people feel
outside.
like.
Yeah, right, okay.
But that was the overall thought, is that we would have service and people higher, and then we'd have quality at the center, surrounded by community and finance.
Yeah, there's a different, you can look at this symbolically in different ways, but if you look at service and people as riding on quality and supported by community and finance, I mean, that's kind of one way you could look at the symbols.
That's true.
Yeah, we thought about, no, that was actually an amazing way to put that. We might steal that from you.
You could make the service and the people slightly bigger
Yeah.
pyramids there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was just a.
We could go on and on.
Yeah, I was
about
Well,
this.
and that's why I didn't want to get,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Thank
like,
you
is this a
very much.
session to like really,
Is it-
discuss, or is it
In general,
a?
you want us to approve the concept
Right.
with community as being one of the pillars.
Yeah,
Correct.
replacing the word grow.
One of the aspirations, one of the 5-year
Okay,
aspirations.
so we're going to call them aspirations, not pillars anymore.
Right.
Yeah, aspirations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the winning aspirations document, or is, what do we call
Well,
it, document, or a?
It's not so much that you're approving the document, you're approving the change in the strategic plan to really change the verbiage growth and replace that with community,
So
right?
can we just do that very cleanly and just say, what do you call this page?
So this has been referred to as an organizational excellence model.
Okay, so can we say in our organization excellence model, we will replace community
Growth.
Yeah.
for growth?
Yep.
We'll
And,
replace
and
growth
and in
with
all
community.
strategic planning documents that are currently exist.
Yeah, we're
Growth for
replacing,
community.
we're taking out growth
Growth,
and
okay.
replacing.
Just
I'll set it in
around.
the inverse,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Okay, so can we have a motion for community to be one of the aspirations to replace growth?
But isn't winning aspirations, isn't that a whole new concept here too? So what would happen if we just approved this whole format as is,
As presented.
as presented?
I think that works.
You could
That would
do
be
that
ideal.
and ultimately, yeah, approving this as is and this format. There may be other places you'll see this content show up in other documents, and I just want you to be aware that, so it's really the whole strategic planning effort.
Because there will be 1-year goals, and as we bring this back, you have the key right and privilege to say, why don't we refresh something in it later?
Yeah,
What if we just move to approve the strategic plan model as presented?
yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, well, we approve something.
We'll take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, good deal. So then we'll move on to, we didn't pull anything from the consent calendar. I think Finance Committee was the only committee that really met since our last meeting.
Yes, we did meet. Yeah, do we want to collect these, by the way? Yeah. These sheets about the.
Yeah, we already sent them in.
Oh, you did, gotcha, okay. And we covered principally 2 items. Number 1 was a review of our Chandler Associates investments and also accounts receivable. And Mary, how did we fill up 2 hours with that?
Well, and the financial
Not allowed to
statement.
report.
And the financial statements.
And the
I can't,
year-end
there was a meeting, so.
adjustments.
Adjustments.
There was.
So, in any event, most of what we covered also appeared in your agenda tonight, so.
Okay. Foundations, did they have meetings?
Yeah, the Truckee Foundation did have a meeting. I think the two highlights there, new board member was welcomed, as well as a new member of the staff.
We did not have an incline.
Okay. Are there any remarks now or reports from other board members? Anybody go to a meeting representing the board? Okay. Then what I'd like to do then is to close open session. We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll go back into closed session.
Going back to the other reports, I don't know how many of the board members were able to go to the town hall meeting. But I went Tuesday afternoon, I think it was, or the second day in the afternoon, and I thought it was fabulous.
Yeah.
And I thought, the employees were very engaged, and I thought it was tremendous. So, thank you.
I thought they were more engaged than they've ever been in any town hall meeting I've been to, and I credit Brian. I thought your little game contest there really got everyone.
Did you win anything?
No. Oh, did I? Yeah, I did get something.
You got something, yeah.
Yeah, something.
Were you able to
It was
identify
name a
what-
board.
Did you, board member?
Yeah, name a board.
How many could you name?
Me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you got evidence.
And then when they asked for.
Yeah, I got evidence,
They
yeah.
said Alice.
Without the T.
No, we really appreciate the board's feedback, and you have another event that should be on your calendar. I won't name it. You can figure it out. 12/9, December 9.
Holiday party?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have a theme?
Yes, it's space. Okay, so as I said before, we'll go ahead and close open session. We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for closed session.